Hello.
Hey,
Hey, there she is, my lady. How you doing? You alright?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good stuff. Not too bad. That means being what they were earlier. Um, hence, I didn't stay on, but yeah, you get used to that. So, first and foremost, I just want to say a big thank you for agreeing to join me tonight. I mean, some of the things that come out of my mouth, I'm not sure I'd be that brave, but clearly you're a lot braver than what I am. So, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about Lady Ashford? Who is she and what brings you to Twitch?
Oh my gosh. Well, so I'm Lady Ashford, otherwise Tamsin. I'm actually from the south of the UK. I moved up to the north not too long ago, loving Yorkshire. I know I said I was from Manchester, but I'm kind of just from the outside, not quite from there. But no, I started streaming actually, because without getting too depressing, I lost my grandma back in November last year. Um, and I took it really hard. And it took me a while to sort of process that and get and like adjust. But basically, I was really really close with my grandma. I wasn't in a greatest place at the time either, and she's one of these people that she would literally do anything for anyone, and in sort of in her honor, when I was a bit better, and feeling when I got kind of past the grief and I was feeling a bit better, I decided to do something for charity to try and raise some money. And I ended up doing it for cancer research, which is actually what she passed away from. So I thought, well, I'm not fit enough to run a marathon or do anything sporty or anything like that. So I decided to sort of look into streaming and doing what I ended up doing was a Resident Evil marathon. So I mean, it was the first time I'd ever streamed or done anything like that. But I absolutely loved it. I surprised myself really because I'm actually quite shy. But I found that kind of really worked for me, and I met such amazing people while doing it and raised over £550 for cancer research.
Wow.
Which was just phenomenal really. I was so overwhelmed with the support and the people I think I found through streaming that I think I was even offered affiliate quite quickly as well, which was a bit surprising. So no, my sister convinced me, said, no, you're a good streamer, you should carry it on. So yeah, I decided I will carry it on. She told me my next game should be Dark Souls. So I think she's setting me up for a bad time.
What have you done to make your sister hate you
so
so?
that's the... Sorry.
What have you done to make your sister hate you so much to suggest that game?
I know. Yeah.
So, I mean, initially then was the plan just, do your marathon, do your charity thing, and then that was just going to be that?
Basically, yeah. I thought, honestly, I didn't even think anybody'd want to watch or anything like that. So it was kind of surprising. And I certainly didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. And as I say, I met so many amazing people, yourself included in that, from doing this, that it just inspired me to sort of carry on. And here we are.
I mean, that's what I found, when I first started. Mine was, I wish I had a backstory like yours there, that, I was doing it for some sort of purpose or, for some sort of charity or something like that. But mine was just quite simply boredom. But I was very much of the same mentality, I thought I'm just a random guy from Manchester that sits and plays Resident Evil games. And initially I thought, if I could even get to 100 followers, like if I can get to 100, if I can get to three figures, then I'd take that. I'd be happy with that. And that seems like such a long time ago now.
Here you are sitting on 1,000.
I know. Funny you mention your sister actually, because it was my sister that convinced me to join Twitch. And like you say, some of the people that you can meet on here, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I've met people now that, without any shadow of a doubt, are going to be lifelong friends. I don't doubt that for 1 minute. But that's the way it all works then. So, have you got any sort of goals in mind for Twitch? Like, is there a certain level that you want to reach to, or anything in particular on the platform that you want to achieve?
Honestly, I think what I would love to do is sort of make enough that I could, because I recently moved house as well, so I've got a little bit more room, and I would love to sort of like rescue cats or foster cats or dogs, and do something to support that So anything I can sort of do to raise money and awareness and do that would be amazing. So I think that would be a sort of a great way. And also, I just love gaming and streaming in general now. So I kind of feel like I can combine the two and just do something that I love to support a cause I kind of love, really. That would be my goal. That would be my dream. Yeah. I keep getting a little cat cam to come on my streams.
And do you know what? Having watched you now for what the last month or two, I've got no doubt in my mind that you'll get there. Like, I remember, I think it was Wednesday when I was on, and then I came watching you afterwards. And you know, allow me to say, you know, for somebody that is relatively new to streaming and to the platform, I've noticed some of the numbers that you've been pulling in, and it's absolutely insane. Like, I'm sure at one point you had about 50 people watching you Wednesday night. It was wow.
I did.
I mean, that's...
And I have to say, I mean, it's just, like, this is what I mean about how phenomenal it's kind of been. And I think that Wednesday stream, oh God, it was amazing. I literally just started. We were doing Resident Evil Village. It was the last one of the marathon as well. So that's what has a lot of meaning for me as well. And I got raided like I think within 10 minutes of starting that stream, I got raided by this account, Root Brews. Absolutely amazing channel. I've been checking her out ever since. So if you don't follow her, definitely check her out. She's very similar sort of vibes to my own. But yeah, she raided me with 50 viewers. And then I got raided, I think, by yourself as well. And then I had 5 raids. And yeah, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. And yeah, like I said, the support and the fact that somebody that amazing, actually, the reason she raided me was because I ended up on her recommended streams. I mean, like, to be like recommended to somebody that's like amazing, like, her channel's just wonderful. It makes me speechless. I'm literally speechless.
And it is always nice, you know, when somebody comes in and, you know, they point out that your channel's appeared on their recommended. You know, having been there myself a couple of times, it is like sometimes almost overwhelming sort of feeling. But it's always nice, you know, when you get somebody coming in. Or I think what I find better is when somebody comes in and says that another person has recommended you to them. That one for me is absolutely phenomenal, because again, I sit there and think, I just sit here playing a computer game talking shit. Like, why would anyone be recommending me to other people? But it is a really nice feeling. And I'm sure, you know, as time goes on, I'm sure you're going to get that more and more. And I look forward to seeing it. Like, if you can pull in 40, 50 people now already, like, can you just imagine where, you know, you could be in 6 months, in 12 months? Lady Ashford for partner 2024. Let's make it happen, guys.
Oh, you're going to make me blush. Thank
Lady
you. Thank you so
Miranda.
much.
Welcome on in, Gas. So obviously, while I've been watching, you know, you've been playing a lot of Resident Evil. Hence, you know, I know you were doing it for the marathon that you were doing. What in particular is it about Resident Evil for you that makes you enjoy the game so much?
Gosh, Resident Evil has been my life, and I think this is actually how I met you. I think through Code Veronica. So as much as I love Resident Evil, Code Veronica's at the heart of me. It was the first Resident Evil that I ever played. I think I was about 13 at the time, and my friend's brother had it, and so it was, hey, you should play this. You should play this. And it was the first, I think, survival horror that I actually played as well. And I just fell in love with it, and I can't. It's difficult to describe. I literally played it, and then I was like, I need to play this again, and I played it again, and then that's what sort of started getting me into survival horror, I suppose. I think I played Silent Hill 2 shortly after that, and then I had to, after my love for Resident Evil started, I had to go back and play all the OG Resident Evils that were out, and then I think Resident Evil Remake came out around that time as well, and I was just in love with the stories, the lore, you know, anything that can get my heart racing. It's just amazing. So I loved it. I was probably a bit too young to be playing it, but I turned out all right. So yeah, it was just my game.
I mean, to be fair, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the vast majority of us, what I call older heads to the franchise, because for me, you've got two lots of Resident Evil fans. You know, you've got the likes of us that have been playing them since the late 90s, and then you've got the sort of newer generation, you know, that came into light with the likes of 5, and then when the remakes came out and whatnot. I feel that most of us that have been playing it since the late 90s probably were playing it a little bit younger than what we should have been. I mean, I think I must have been, I want to say about 8 year old when I first started playing Resident Evil. And
Oh wow.
I'm nearly 33 now, so that tells you how long I've been playing the franchise for.
Wow.
I just think it's an absolutely incredible franchise. Like you sort of touched on, when it first came out, it was like nothing that had ever been done before.
Yeah.
And then I think obviously you had the first one in '96, and then you get number 2 in '98, which was just sort of blew everything away. And then you got the remade Resident Evil remaster. That was just, I mean, there's very few games that I've sat and played that have genuinely scared me. But my first playthrough of that, wow, I was cacking my pants something rotten. But
Gosh.
one thing that I do always ask people when they come on, because as I'm
Yeah.
sure you can understand, basically everybody that's been on so far has been some sort of Resident Evil fan in some way, shape or form. Let's take Resident Evil off the table for a minute. What would then
Right.
be your go-to franchise gaming-wise?
Oh. Probably Silent Hill. I don't know what it is about Silent Hill as well. It's like, it's kind of also it's like Resident Evil, but different. It's just its own sort of like horror. And I do love the Silent Hill ones. I was absolutely gutted when PT, the PT trailer and Silent Hills got cancelled. I was like, no! But then I'm really looking forward to the Silent Hill 2 remake that's coming out, hopefully this year, I think.
I believe so, yeah.
And they've got another bunch of games as well. I'm really excited for that. So probably Silent Hill. The other one as well, I'd probably have to say, is Final Fantasy.
Yes!
Bit of a curveball, very different to Resident Evil, but it's another series that I just absolutely love. I played Final Fantasy VII, God, back when I was in high school. And yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. I recommend it to everybody that I'm like, you must play 7. I don't care if the graphics are outdated, you must play it. I love 8, love 9, love 10. I mean, yeah, another one.
See, funny story. I mean, I'm a massive Final Fantasy nut myself. It's not something that I play on stream often, but it's a game that I just really enjoy playing. I started out with number 8, and I didn't pick up number 7 for... I couldn't tell you exactly how long, but it was a very long time. And I think the reason being is, like, so many Final Fantasy fans were telling me about 7, and they were telling me how good it is, and it's, Liam, you've got to play this game. You've got to play 7. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I think in my own head, I just built up too much of an expectation to a degree where I was like, no, no matter how good this game is now, it's not going to live up to what I've built it up as in my head. And then I finally got around to playing it, and wow, I was certainly not disappointed. What do you think of the remake, though?
Oh, I'm in mixed. One part of me absolutely loves it. I think they did such a good job with it. There were a few things in there that I just thought were a bit that they probably didn't need to do. But dear God, regardless, it's still. I think it's still a phenomenal remake. I was a bit surprised that it was because it only takes you to the end of Midgar, and I was like, I'm sure they're only doing this game in 3 parts, which means these second 2 parts are going to have to be huge. But I loved that they added a lot more like content and a lot of backstory behind some of the characters like Jessie and those that didn't really get a lot of airtime. But it just made it even more emotional when I don't want to spoil too much, but as the story progresses compared to the first one. But yeah, I liked that aspect a lot.
See,
Some parts I thought were a bit like maybe not the motorbike guy. Not sure why they needed him.
Yeah, he was a bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, the character was funny. I did think he was a funny sort of character. But it was, for me, it was one of those that you played that segment and you kind of scratching your head after it, thinking, like, why? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
What's this in aid of? I remember first playing it, and like yourself, I really enjoyed it. Was really disappointed by the fact that the rumours were true that it was only going to be, a portion of the game, and they were going to do it in like multiple different parts. Simply because I thought we've been waiting for this game for so long that surely they're not going to segment it like they have done. But we sort of take that on the chin. I mean, I think for considering it only covered a really small portion of the story, I thought we got lots of content out of it. I mean, unfortunately, I've not yet finished it. that's what makes me laugh the most. Well, I bought it, and I paid a damn lot of money for it as well, because I bought the deluxe version on a pre-order, but the digital version. So obviously digital versions are always a little bit more expensive than the disc copies. I want to say I definitely paid in excess of £70 for it anyway. I remember that much. And I was playing it and playing it and playing it, and I got up to the Shinra building. So I know I'm not far off finishing it. And I put it down, and for whatever reason I've just not picked it up since. I really need to get around to it. Do we know if there's any sort of timescale for Part 2? Because I feel like it's been really quiet on that front.
It has been, and no, I think I saw something. I'm sure I saw something that must have been part of Part 2, because it was that mini game where you can play a Condor, I think it is. But no, I've literally heard nothing. I'm looking forward to that so much. But no, I think they must have been focusing on the Final Fantasy 16, which is obviously due out this year.
Yeah, that's a very
I think it's next month, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got a feeling that it's coming up quite soon. I think that's probably what's going to like throw me back into playing Part 1. But I feel like it's been that long now that I'm going to have to do a complete fresh playthrough. I'm going to have to start it from the beginning, because it's been so long since I played it now that I just feel like I'm not going to remember anything. But I feel like that's what's going to throw me back into it, is some sort of announcement for Part 2. You're getting a lot of admiration in this chat here, by the way. Lana, just tell her I'm in love is all. She's beautiful. Well,
oh, thank you.
get your coat. So, going back to Resident Evil, obviously I've noticed while you were doing your marathon, it was very much story playthrough oriented. Have you got any sort of desire to step into the challenge aspect of it, like the speed runs or no damage or anything at all like that, or are you just happy with the casuals for now?
I'm not sure I'd be very good at speed running. I remember I used to brag about the fact that I could complete Code Veronica in 3 hours, and I think it was you. I met you, and I was like, "Oh well, that put that to utter shame, didn't it?" So yeah, my bragging rights have long gone. But no, I'm too chilled, I think, for the stress of speed running. But I do like to. I'm a bit of a trophy fanatic, so I do like to get all of the trophies and the platinum trophies, and I do have all of those. And I think that has kind of an element of speed running. So, I think Resi 4 to get the S Plus, you had to do it in under 5.5 hours, and so I'll definitely do all those challenges. I think Code Veronica to the A rank as well was under 4.5 with no saves, no retry, and I've done all of that. But yeah, that's probably my limits.
Yeah, I remember doing the platinum hunt on Code Veronica myself, and it was a lot more difficult than what I anticipated it was going to be. Because, like yourself, I've been playing that game basically since it came out. Even before I started speedrunning, I felt like I knew the game like the back of my hand. And the struggle for me, it wasn't getting the A rank. The A rank I didn't find to be all that bad. I think it took me a couple of attempts. For me, it was the battle game trophies, because
oh yeah,
I mean you'll know yourself. Unfortunately, the PlayStation 4 it only got the PlayStation 2 ported version, whereas the PlayStation 3 got the HD one. And I'm thinking, there's something not adding up here. And it was just so damn difficult to get those top ranks on that battle game. What is it?
Yeah, well, I think there's something as well with the European version is even harder, I think, than even the American one. I don't know why, but there's something to do with the timings there. But yeah, definitely, I think, is it Chris's or Chris's? I think, and Claire's were just ridiculously hard to get. I remember repeating so many times to get those, to get that trophy. God, yeah.
With Chris, you've basically, obviously you get to the end and you've got to fight Alexia in a final form. The easiest way to do it is you stun lock her, so you make her fly next to the wall, but if you catch it right, then she actually can't move, and then you just unload on her. But the Claire run when you fight Nosferatu at the end, that for me, I'm fairly sure it took me a solid. I'd have to ask Dean. Dean would know more because he was watching me do it, but it took me like a good 8.5, 9 hours of just sitting repeating that run over and over and over to the point where I'm thinking, I just want to get this trophy now so that I can stop playing it. It's boring me now. But no, that for sure was a definite. That was a really difficult one to platinum. Azza in the chat says, "What is it about Code Veronica that stands out more than the others? More than the others."
For me, there's probably about 2 reasons why it's probably my favourite. The first one is just probably because it was the first one that I played. It brought me to the Resident Evil franchise, and since that game I fell in love with the rest of it. So because it was the first, it'll always have a little soft spot in my heart. The second reason is because of Alexia Ashford. I don't know what it is, but she was probably the first powerhouse woman that I think I'd kind of encountered, and I obviously take this with a pinch of salt, but for probably the right reasons. She was quite inspirational, to have somebody, a woman as well, actually be that powerful, that authoritative, and everything that was quite inspirational for me anyway. Because most of the time it's always guys, I've got to be honest, Wesker and all the rest of it. So it was just nice to sort of have some, that basically. So that's kind of what I just fell in love with Alexia ever since that game. The name Lady Ashford comes from that. It's stuck with me for life now. And yeah, even to this day, I still adore the woman.
So, obviously, I've heard you speak about Alexia a few times when watching your stream, and we all know where your username comes from. Let's be honest here. Has somebody got a little bit of a thing for Alexia?
Maybe. I wouldn't say no.
But no, I definitely agree with what you've just said there. Like, thinking one, two, three, the main antagonists, like you say, they were all male. You had Wesker. Number 2, you've got William Birkin. I don't really think you can class Annette as a main antagonist, because she, for me, had a very small role in that game. It was more about William and obviously the virus that he created. Number 3, obviously, you've got Nikolai. Number 4, Sadler and Salazar. So, like you said, I think you could probably say up until 5, it was actually the only one that had like a sort of evil woman play a role within.
Yeah.
Like such a big role within the story.
Yeah, and I think even with 5 though, you got Excella, but she still feels like she's second to Wesker. And that was kind of the thing. So when Alexia sort of came along, and not only was she this like 10-year-old genius that surpassed everyone, she even got Birkin jealous and surpassed all of that. So I think it really, like, it struck a bit. I think until you get to like Miranda, it's the next time you have anybody of that kind of caliber, I think.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I enjoyed the most was the whole curveball with the story behind Alexia as well, because obviously you play at the beginning, and it's very much hinting that it's just Alfred dressing up as a woman, and there isn't actually an Alexia, and then you actually find out, well, yeah, there is. And I think it's when Chris and Claire first meet that it's only then that Claire realises that she actually is real.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I love about Code Veronica, that story, the shifting and the plot twists and all of that is just wonderful. Keeps you on your toes.
I think it's got one of the best stories like within the whole franchise. There goes my green screen again.
It was interesting as well because when I first played it, I think I found Alfred so annoying. I was like, oh, just go away. And then when you sort of hear about, obviously, the whole cross-dressing thing, and then the book sort of says about how his sister died and he's been on his own, I actually felt really sorry for him. So since then, I just can't not find him adorable.
The one thing about him that it really grates on me, and I know that you love him for it, but to me it's like, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It just goes through me like the... I'm like, wow, what is that? What is that? My flatmate's now pissing his eyes laughing at my impression of that.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
But I do think the vast majority of the characters in Code Veronica, I really enjoy. Again, I know this is one that you're going to disagree with. I really don't like Steve. Now, I get it. He's this misunderstood young lad who's thrown into a situation that, nobody of that age should ever find themselves in. I just don't like him. I can't put my finger on exactly why. I just don't like the guy.
I actually don't disagree with you there. He's not one of my favourites either. And he killed Alfred.
To be fair, though, I will give him his due. He is involved in what I perceive as some of the most iconic cutscenes in the whole franchise, like the father cutscene. Wow, that was phenomenal. But then the way that his story ended as well, that was sort of really tugged on your heartstrings a little bit. And you get people that, when you watch that cutscene and they'll say, oh, he's only known Claire for a couple of hours, and he's saying that he's in love with her, blah, blah, blah. By extension, can't you say the same thing about Leon with Ada, though?
Yeah, of course.
What is it about the males in Resident Evil games falling in love with a woman that they've literally just met? It's like the Resident Evil thing. I don't know where that's come from.
Well, I think as well the Resident Evil ladies are very attractive. Must be easy.
Yeah, this is true. I'm going to be completely honest with you. There's just something about Ada that does it for me. Can't explain what it actually is. Maybe it's the whole danger side of her. Maybe it's, you don't quite know what you're getting with it. There's just something about Ada. Like, Ada for me is top tier.
She's definitely mysterious and in all the right ways, for sure.
So obviously now that you've you finished your marathon, and I know you mentioned that your sister's now getting you to play the Dark Souls games. Does that mean that you're putting Resident Evil down for a while? Are you going to come back to it? What's the plan there?
Well, it's actually my birthday in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to do something for my birthdays. I would definitely be doing something Resident Evil related. I would expect. I haven't quite planned what I'm doing yet, but I would expect Code Veronica to definitely be in there. I'm actually probably going to do more of a sort of mini marathon of the Resident Evil games. I've got the whole week booked off as well, so I'm just trying to think what to do with it. But yeah, definitely going to be playing some Resident Evil on my birthday and enjoying that because it's just to be done. But then no, I'll definitely be coming back to it every now and again and picking it up in between because I just love it too much.
Lana says, when is her birthday? I'm actually glad that you've mentioned that because I was sitting here earlier on and I was doing my schedule for the week, planning out what I'm going to be doing, blah, blah, blah. And then I was sitting here and I thought, I know that somebody's birthday is coming up, but I couldn't for the life of me think who. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, that's going to really annoy me now. It's really going to do my head in. So thank you for settling that.
My birthday is the 22nd, so I'm a Gemini. Just.
Oh God, I'm sure Lana's a Gemini as well. She's going to go absolutely off the chain about this now. What about the co-op Resident Evil games? Are we going to be seeing those again?
Oh gosh, yeah, definitely. Anybody who wants to, I'm all for co-op. I don't really actually have that many people to, that I know. That most of my people are from work, so actually knowing people that enjoy Resident Evil and that is probably lacking. So anybody who wants to play co-op or can play on PlayStation, I'm totally up for that. I love that. I love finding new people to play co-op modes with. I just wish Resident Evil did a bit more with. So obviously you got Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, but like the Revs games, I think you can't play those with the story co-op. You can only play like Raid or something, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I'm definitely down to co-op anytime. And
I was speaking about this with Amber quite recently. Amber's somebody that I've known on the platform for a very long time. And we were wanting to co-op it, and I think it was yourself pointed out that, the story mode, it's only local co-op. And I don't understand why, because if you've got the ability to do local co-op, I don't see why you can't do it online as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think what I ended up having to do, because I did actually play that with my sister, actually, was I had to sort of share play, make them control my screen, and then so they could play player one as me. and then I'd have to load on with a separate controller and play player 2 to be the second person on the split screen, and got it to work that way. But God, it's fiddly.
I was going to say that.
And you can't stream that, I don't think. I don't.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like a bit of a pain in the backside, that.
And obviously after an hour it'll time out, so you have to reset it all.
Oh, God. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to bother doing that. But I just don't understand why, like, they can't even release some kind of update for it, because it can't be that difficult, surely.
No, exactly. They've obviously made it co-op available on co-op. I mean, as like a couch co-op. How difficult could it be to lift that up a level? Seriously.
I suppose the only question being is, really, is there still the demand with the Revelations games for them to do that? I think possibly if they were to do a Revelations 3, that could bring back a lot more demand for Revelations 1 and 2. Because that's one that I've noticed you don't really see streamed all that much. But that being said, you could say the same thing about Code Veronica. Seems to be with Code Veronica on Twitch that plenty of people enjoy watching it, just the people that stream it are few and far between. I'm going to be totally honest, I think that's one of the reasons why I picked it up and decided to do so much with it online, was I thought, well, it's something that, you don't really tend to see a lot of. So I just figured if I can get good at it and make something out of it, then, why not? There's a gap in the market, so to speak, for it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, I found you.
I actually remember, I mean, it was a couple of months back now, but I remember you coming in, and I think one of the first things that you said was that Code Veronica was your favourite Resident Evil game, and I was like, right, well, I'm going to get on with you in that case.
I think it was quite funny because I don't think I realised you were speedrunning it at the time either, and I was just going la 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 for my Code Veronica world. And then I was like, oh, sorry, am I distracting you? You're like this machine that can I mean, hats off to you. I think speedrunning is one thing, but to be monitoring your chat as well the way that you do, I think that's been one of the things I struggle the most, is trying to coordinate both of them while streaming. So phenomenal.
To be honest, that's something that just comes with experience. I mean, I've been speedrunning for a couple of years now, and to be honest with you, I only actually got into it as a way to sort of enjoy the games again. Because I'd started with 2 Remake, and at that point, I'd basically done everything else. I'd got the Platinum Trophy, I'd unlocked all the bonus weapons. Like, there wasn't really anything for me to aim for again. And then I was watching Matt, he's called Matt RPD, very big streamer in the speedrunning world, and I saw him speedrunning, and that was my first introduction to it, and I figured it was something that would mean I can pick the game up, and basically I'm always going to have something to aim for, unless obviously you get to the top of that particular category, you start talking about world records and things like that. You've always got something that you can chase down, something that you can work towards, and I think that's what I enjoy about it the most. I mean, it also helps the fact that I stream from PC, so whenever I'm, especially with Code Veronica, because it's not a full screen application, because it's an emulator, I can have both my chat and the game screen on the same screen, so it's really easy to, keep on top of. But again, that's just something that's just pure experience. But speaking of which, because I know obviously at the moment you stream from console, have you got any plans to, are you going to stick with console? Are you maybe going to make the transition over to PC, or is it just a case of see where we go type thing?
I'd probably stick with console. I'm not really much of a PC gamer. I think that would just blow my mind. Also, I've got so many games that I'd love to play and stream that I could be here for years anyway, getting through them all before run out, and there'll be loads more coming out as well. So I think I'll probably stick to console. I have recently though just moved from PS4 to PS5, so I'm slowly transitioning my games over to there to now stream from PS5. So
yeah,
that's all good.
Well, you see, the one thing that the one bit of advice that I always give to people that are relatively new to the whole streaming world and whatnot, the mistake a lot of people make is they decide to start streaming, and then they go out and spend an absolute fortune on equipment. I mean, I've known people spend thousands of pounds on technology, PC and webcams, the top of the range microphones, and then they'll stream for about 2 weeks, and they'll find out that it's not for them. And then it's, well, you've just been out and spent all that money. So the thing that I always advise people is obviously stick with what you've got for the time being, see how it goes for you, and then in the future, if it's something that you decide to keep on top of and it's something that you enjoy, by all means, invest in what you have got. But I think when I first started, I want to say I was streaming directly from console for, I'm sure it was at least a year, if maybe even a little bit longer. I think it had been just over 12 months before I bought my first PC.
Oh, there you go.
But there was nothing wrong with just streaming directly from console for me. It was just I wanted a PC. Quite simply, that was always like something that was in the back of my mind, whether I was going to stream or not. I decided this before before I started streaming, that I wanted a gaming PC at some point in my life. And then I was very fortunate that a friend of mine was selling a really good computer for a lot less than it was worth. A hell of a lot less.
Nice.
I could probably sell this now and make maybe not quite double what I paid for it, but not far off. Like I got a real bargain, and we're not just talking a couple of quid that I paid for it either. But no, obviously it's just finding what works for you, and like you say, if you've got plenty of games there that you can already go through on console, like obviously, like I said to you earlier, you're pulling in the numbers. The way that you've took to streaming, again, not saying this to blow smoke up your ass, but the way that you've took to streaming, myself personally, I think is absolutely phenomenal. So, why change anything if it's working?
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I'm only saying it because it's true. But with what you've just said there, though, that you've got plenty of games that you do want to stream, I'm now really curious as to what these other games are.
I actually put a good chunk of them on my. I've created an About Me section. I've figured out how to do that now. So I did put a list of ones there. I've got I'd love to do the Mass Effect series again. I have played them all before, but I love sort of games like that where you can alternate and change what you want to do, and that's kind of interactive a bit as well. Like you can ask your chat, well, what should we do here, and things like that. So I thought that would be quite interesting. I'm going to do the whole of the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring again as well. My friends recommended Dead Red Redemption, something like that.
Red Dead Redemption.
Which I've never actually played before, so I think it's two of those that I'd love to do. I've got a whole list. I think it's ridiculous how many games I want to do. Probably The Last of Us as well. Gosh, so many. I think I might put Final Fantasy on there, but I'm not sure I will stream Final Fantasy. I think it's kind of like probably my one I just like to take my time with, probably off stream.
Yeah.
But some of the others, yeah, defo.
I mean, not to sort of put you off or anything like that, but one of the reasons why I don't stream Final Fantasy a lot is I've heard really bad stories about it.
Really?
More so the people that are within the community. And I did actually experience it myself once. It was actually my very first 24-hour that I did. And because I was going from console, obviously, as you'll know, when you're streaming from console, if you want to change game, you have to end your stream and restart. So I figured I want to do a 24-hour stream, don't want to keep starting it, so I'll play a Final Fantasy game. Because I knew that I could get a solid 24 hours worth of content out of it. So I was playing number 10, and I got to the Unalesca fight, and some guy comes into my chat, and he starts, "Oh, your stats are really weak considering where you are in the game, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Well, dude, I know this game inside out. My stats are enough for me to do, obviously what I need to do." And then he starts going on about how good he is. "Oh, I'm so good at this game. I can finish it in 5 hours." And I'm sitting there like, "Dude, no, you can't. The world record's 10. Don't come in and lie to me." And he was adamant that he could beat it in 5 hours. But apparently there's quite a lot of people within the Final Fantasy community that are like that. They'll start tearing into you because you're not good enough. So that's one of the reasons why I avoid playing it on stream. Can you not switch game on stream from PlayStation? Not without ending your stream, no. If you're streaming directly from PS... Well, I know it's the case with PS4. I'm not sure if it's the same with PS5. It stops your stream when you close the game down. So then obviously you've got to open the next game and restart your stream. Don't know if it's the same thing on Xbox. I'd imagine that it is. But I've got a feeling it's about to tell me whether it's whether it's the same thing or not now. Sorry, I went right off on a tangent there.
I shall avoid. I like to just enjoy it at my own pace and I think as well, like sometimes, especially if it's not, I kind of like to get immersed in those sorts of games and just enjoy it. And, you know, it can be a bit distracting when you've got to entertain as well, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, with stuff like that, it comes down to the people that you've got around you. I think one of the things that would bode well for you in that sort of situation, you know, hopefully you've not experienced anything like that as yet, and touch wood, you never will. I think what would go well for you in that situation is the fact that your sister's a mod for you, because I've sort of started to notice a bit now, like, she's a bit more cutthroat than what you are.
Yes, yes, she is.
Some of the things that she was coming out with on Wednesday, even I was sat there like, wow. Funny, don't get me wrong, but I was like, wow.
Yeah, she definitely is a character. She's far more blunt cut, and she's there. She said something. You just tell me I have the ban hammer right here. Okay, whoa, hold your horses. Yeah, no, she's really good. She looks after me.
Do you know what though? I think we all sort of need a mod like that. Someone that, how can I put this? Basically, won't take any shit. I'm sort of quite lucky in that regard, in the fact that number one, I've got a few mods that are like that anyway. But then number two, like, I'm quite thick-skinned. You know, there's not really too much that somebody come in and say to me that's gonna like get a reaction out of me or put me off or anything like that. Obviously, not everybody's the same. And you need the people, you know, like your sister, that are just going to be like, nah, see you in a bit, dude.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, though, like... Oh, go on, sorry.
No, sorry, carry on.
I was just going to... Obviously, I'd said, like, you know, hopefully that's something that you've not experienced as yet. Have you had somebody come in where, you know, you've sort of had to give them a warning to, or, you know, boot them out of the channel, someone that's maybe overstepped the mark a little bit?
Gosh, no. I must have. I think I've been quite lucky as of now. I've probably had some, you know, that come in, follow, ask how you're doing and stuff, and then immediately unfollow, which I thought was a bit strange, but you know, each to their own. There was one that sort of came in. They didn't do anything wrong, but they did sort of go off on one about how bad the NHS is, especially given they didn't even live in the UK, which I thought was quite. You know, just sort of fanning the flames. And I did say to my sister, I was like, look, don't do anything yet, but if they come back, just keep an eye on them. But they never came back, so it was just a bit weird. It was nothing about the game, just seemed they wanted to vent about the NHS on my chat for some random reason. But yeah, no, touch wood. Nothing like that so far. Fingers crossed it stays that way, but I'd say Holly's got the ban hammer. She's ready. I think she's desperate to use it, to be honest.
No, that's why there's certain topics that I just won't even entertain. Things like politics, you know, and anything that could potentially trigger an argument. I'll just put a blanket ban on. Like the minute the topic even arises, I'm like, yeah, I don't want that in my channel. You know, by all means, if that's something you want to debate, you go off and debate it with somebody, but don't do it in here. Purely because, for me personally, from what I've experienced, things like that never just end up being a discussion. Do you know what I mean? It's never just, this is my view, that's their view, right, great, happy days, and away we all go. It always boils down to an argument or insulting each other and things like that, so I just don't even entertain it these days. So no politics, but what about WWE versus AEW? Hey Blue, there's always people like Blue that just pop out of nowhere and think, yeah, let's wind him up a little bit. People like that, fine, no problems with whatsoever. Oh, Christ almighty. Oh, and now we've got chat moving quite a bit. In terms of yourself, not as a streamer, but as a viewer, like, when you go into somebody's channel, say you go in there for the first time, what is it that makes you go back? Like, what do you look for when you're on the other end, when you're a viewer watching somebody else?
I mean, I've got to be honest. I seem to jump into a lot of Code Veronica ones. I love watching the game in general. I think what makes me go back, because I normally pop in and I'll say like hi, because I like to be polite. It's more that welcoming vibe, I think, and I think I watched one guy streaming Code Veronica and he actually fell asleep on the stream, and I was like, oh dear. It was quite painful watching him sort of like walk from the next room and then fall asleep again, and all he heard was snoring for like 5 minutes until he woke himself up again, and then went back into the. And I was just like messaging, going, "You're so close to the typewriter, just save it." Oh dear, that was quite painful. I didn't go back there. But generally, like you sort of, I think you sort of get like a sense of you feel welcome there, and I think that's really all it takes. And then if you're streaming stuff that I enjoy, like I love your content's Resident Evil stuff, and I'll be there all the time. I love the sense of humor that you have as well, and that kind of thing is what I sort of enjoy, sort of watching what I love, but also having that sort of like nice welcoming community around as well. That's what brings me back.
And do you know what? I completely agree with everything that you've just said there. That's the most important thing for me, is obviously the engagement. I'm one of those. I don't particularly watch streams necessarily for the game that's being played. Like, I watch streams to support that specific person. And there've been times, where I've gone into a stream and you don't get any sort of engagement at all. Your messages get overlooked for any particular reason. I'm not always saying, I'm not necessarily saying that it's just that particular person ignoring. Sometimes it is a case of chat's moving too fast and they end up missing your messages or whatnot. But there's nothing worse than, sitting there watching somebody and just feeling like another number. So whenever that's happened to me before, I don't, generally speaking, I don't really tend to go back into that channel. But in the same breath, I'm very lucky that those kind of situations have been very few and far between. The people that I do now go and watch, I feel incredibly welcome. Like when I come and watch you, I always feel like I'm part of something. I'm involved with everybody, not only with yourself, but with the people that are in the channel as well. There's plenty of people here in the chat now that I watch where it's exactly the same thing. I think as a streamer myself, that's something that's really important, is having that engagement, because like the way I see it is anybody that comes into your channel, they're taking time out of their day to sit and watch you play a computer game. So, the bare minimum should be at least making sure that you show that bit of appreciation and, making sure that you engage with them.
No, absolutely. I think I was in somebody's channel and they must have had like about 137 viewers, and even I said. But she was playing Code Veronica. That's how I find most what I go for. She was playing Code Veronica. I joined, and even with that, she was probably about like I'd probably sent the message and she didn't see it for like 5 minutes, but she still even then made the effort to sort of made me feel welcome and be like, oh, my LadyAshford, you're here. So it made a big thing about it and made me feel kind of welcome even with that. So, and then I've been in another one where it was literally just me and the streamer, and God, it was like getting blood out of a stone trying to talk to them. And I was like, I'm off. So it's very different.
Yeah, one of those that you could say anything, not get a response, and you just get to a point where you're like, all right, bye then.
I think I literally said, so how are you finding Code Veronica, and got a reply, yeah, it's all right. Okay. Right. There's no interest. I'm like, why? But each of their own.
No, of course. I'm not trying to sit here for 1 minute and suggest the way that I do things or the way that you do things is necessarily the correct way. It's one of those different things work for different people. Like, just because something works for me doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. We've all got our own. Sorry, just talking absolute bollocks here, and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Just be loud and abusive like me. I mean, I don't think I need any lessons for that. I wouldn't necessarily say abusive though. I like to wind people up. I like to have a laugh with people, but I know where to draw the line. Just ignore us, like. Yeah, if it was that simple, then I wouldn't have been saying that, would I? Now, I know obviously so far it's been purely Resident Evil content, so I suppose I can't really ask this about a game that you've streamed, but in terms of games that you've played, full stop, if you had to say what is the most difficult game that you've ever played, what would you go to and why?
Oh gosh, most difficult. So I'm gonna give. Well, so probably the most difficult I've played was probably Bloodborne. I think that was tiresome trying to get to, trying to just complete that game in general. But as I mentioned before, I'm kind of a trophy hunter as well, and I love to get the platinum trophies on them all. And I generally do, even on some of the more brutal games. I think I've even got the platinum on Ninja Gaiden, and that was horrific to get, but I was so proud I got it. There are two games that have just beaten me, and that is Devil May Cry 5. Getting an S rank on every single mode, including Hell and Hell mode, just ruined me, and I just can't. I feel like I have to go back and try that again. But no, I just found that far too difficult. And then the other one is the Evil Within.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I got all the trophies except completing it on, I think it's Humu mode. I got to chapter 3 and I was like, this is insane. How does anybody do this? And then what's so frustrating is you can just go on YouTube and you see this person who just does it and makes it look so easy. And the skills. I mean, I love the games anyway. I love Devil May Cry. I love Evil Within, but I had to forego. I'm quite determined and quite committed, and once I've started, I'll be like, I have to get this, and I'll just try over and over. My sister has a little thing with me and says, because I've got this saying, one more try, and I say that every time I'll die, and she's like, one more try. So I'm quite committed and dedicated to doing things. But no, those two have beaten me with regards to getting the platinum trophies. But just I think game completion, I'd probably say Bloodborne. I played Elden Ring as well, but I don't think that was as hard as Bloodborne was. I think there was just this one boss that just Master Logarius, I think his name was. And yeah, he was just brutal. Yeah. What about you, out of interest?
Oh god. Hardest game that I've played. I mean, it feels like forever since I played anything that wasn't Resident Evil. The last couple of years now, it's been just purely Resident Evil. But if I had to say, there's a modded version of Final Fantasy VIII. It's called Crystal. Really fun take on the game. So basically, what it's done is not only has it made the game more difficult, it's taken away any sort of opportunity to make yourself overpowered. So obviously you'll know yourself, having played the game. Final Fantasy VIII is very easily manipulated, and you can make yourself very strong very quickly when you know what you're doing. Now what this mod has done has taken away the ability to junction magic to your stats, so you can't do that. But then, like I say, it's changed up things as well. So for example, the first boss fight, when you go into the fire cavern and you fight Ifrit, you don't only fight Ifrit, he's paired with a Buell that will constantly cast fire magic on him to replenish his HP.
Oh my god.
I can't remember how many times I died while playing through it, but I got to the end of Disc 2 when you fight Cypher and Edia, and I just can't beat that fight. Like, I've tried it so many times. I think I've beaten it once, but that was with using the what do you call them? They're basically using the cheats. I was having unlimited limit breaks and things like that, but even then, there were points where I'm like, I'm almost dying and I'm having to go really defensive. But yeah, that's probably the most difficult that I've played. Either that or the Japanese modded Resident Evil 3, because God, I think I've played about 6 different ones, but they're all they're insanely difficult. I think out of the 6 that I've played, I've maybe beaten 2 of them. Wow. If you ever do get yourself a PC, I'm gonna have to send you some of those, because don't get me wrong, they're really fun, but they're just stupidly difficult. think the
Oh god,
hardest one.
I think that's probably one of the reasons I desperately want a PC is for the mods. I've seen some right crackers. I think my sister sent you the one for it was a Resident Evil 2, and you could play as LadyAshford as Claire, and
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, just stuff like that. I mean, the mods are just so funny sometimes.
Right, another one that, well, I'm hoping is going to get you thinking anyway. Again,
Okay.
I'm going to take Resident Evil completely off the table. What would
Okay.
you then say your favourite game would be? If we didn't have any Resident Evil, never mind just Code Veronica, if Resident Evil just didn't exist, what would your favourite ever game be?
Probably be Final Fantasy VII. I just love it.
I feel like you answered that far too easily. I'm going to have to come up with something different. But again, you know,
It's because generally when people ask what's your favourite game, I will biasly say Code Veronica. But in general, like if I had to make a list of all the things that I loved about a game, then I'd probably Final Fantasy would actually win. It's just Code Veronica has to win because it has Alexia in it, so I'm like, you know, it just wins.
But what is it? What is it then about Final Fantasy VII that makes it so good for you?
Oh, just the story, I think, and the characters, and the fact it was just so long, and open world, and the chocobo racing. I mean, the side quests as well. Just there's just so much stuff you could do. I probably spent about like 10 hours at least in Gold Saucer, just like playing about on the little mini games and snowboarding or motorbike or whatever it was. I just thought there was such diversity, and the characters were all diverse, and you had like loads you could unlock. Like I think Vincent and Yuffie were hidden characters and things like that. So it's just one that I think I must have replayed it like every year at least. And even more so when they introduced, like, I think Crisis Core came out, and obviously they've remade it. So yeah, there's just loads, and all the movies that they've created about it. There's just so much content around there as well. So it's easy for me to just pick up again and replay.
Isn't there the title of it's going to do my nut in now? But isn't there a Final Fantasy VII spin-off on the PlayStation 2 that focuses on Vincent?
Yes, Dirge of Cerberus.
That's the one.
Yes,
not one that
I played that.
myself.
I'm not sure I enjoyed that one as much. Was it like a first-person shooter as well, or?
See, it's not one that I played myself. I just remember my brother, my older brother, because he's really into his Final Fantasy. He played it quite a lot. He seems to really enjoy it. It was just one that I never quite got around to. Oh, Gast says, which of the games you've played the most is your least favourite?
My least favourite that I've played the most?
I think it's a bit of a difficult question, that, because obviously if you're not liking it, you're not going to play it.
I mean, Final Fantasy 15, I just did not. I think I got through probably the first quarter of the game and liked it, but then after that, I really just did not get on with it. And I think because it's such a long game, I played that a lot. And I did replay it as well, just in case. Like a few years later, I just thought, I'm going to replay this because I just can't. I didn't get into it the first time, and I must have not given it a chance. But when I replayed it, I was like, oh, no. Which is a shame because I really liked the movie that they did. Kingsglaive, I think it was called. I enjoyed that, but no, I don't know what it was. Whether it was just because it was a bunch of guys going on a thing and there was nothing to connect me into or feel like I was part of it. I don't know. I just didn't really get into that game at all. Can't think now. I'm sure there's another one that'll just stand out with.
You see, for me, and I've got a feeling that this one's going to surprise you a bit, actually. A game that I played that I just could not get into, Silent Hill. And I don't know why, because I've seen plenty of people play it. Like, I can sit and watch somebody play it. No problems at all. I just can't get into playing it myself. And I think this is going to make me sound really immature now, but I think it's just purely because it's not Resident Evil. And growing up in the early days, I was always one of those that, you know, you were either Resident Evil or Silent Hill. You were either FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer. You were either Medal of Honor or Call of Duty. You know, you weren't allowed to like both. And I just feel like I've never got out of that mindset. I tried playing Silent Hill about a year or so ago on stream now, because I've got it. I've got a PlayStation 1 emulator, and I've got a copy of the game. And I just couldn't get into it. I think, and I'm going to be totally honest with this, I think the other part of it was, I just didn't know what I was doing. I can't figure the game out. I don't know where to go. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I think that was the beauty of Silent Hill. You'd have, like, in Resident Evil, although you had to go find all the keys to unlock doors, there was like a limit. But in Silent Hill, you could be there checking. There'd be like 100 doors to check. And I mean, the good thing was he'd mark it off on his map, you know, which ones he'd checked and all this. But my God, that's a number of the amount of locked doors, just crazy. But no, I loved them both, but for different reasons. I thought like Resident Evil was more of a sort of jump scare, physical horror, and then I thought Silent Hill was more of a psychological horror, and I just kind of
100%.
loved them for themselves, I think. But you know, no, I do really like Silent Hill.
It is one that I'm going to have to go back to at some point, because I do feel that, you know, if I give it enough of an opportunity and I can actually figure out what I'm doing, I do feel like it's a game that I'll enjoy. Because like I say, I can sit and watch people play it. I'll sit and watch somebody play Silent Hill, no problems whatsoever. I'm going to have to try it again at some point. Is there a game out there that you've perhaps played, not enjoyed, put down, and then gone back to a while later and completely changed your opinion on it?
Oh, you know, I think there is, and it might have been Dragon Age.
Oh yeah.
I think when I first played it, I thought it was so boring, and I just couldn't get into it and put it down. And then I tried it again, and then for whatever reason, maybe I just didn't know what I was doing the first time or something, and I just lost interest or couldn't focus. But then when I tried it again, I think I must have knew what I was doing, and I actually then got into the story and enjoyed it a bit more. I'm sure there's another one that's bugging me now. Definitely, there's something ringing in my head where I've definitely done exactly that, where I'm like, oh, I'm not playing this again, and then I replayed it later and went, oh, it's actually not that bad.
Do you know a game that I did that with? Resident Evil 7. Yep. So, the first time I played 7, I wasn't a fan. Like, I didn't enjoy it, and I don't know if it was because it was completely different to Resident Evil as I knew it, or whether it was the change in the cast and the characters and whatnot. But yeah, the first time... Sorry, excuse me, I'm really winded tonight. The first time I played it, I just didn't like it at all. And then I put it down, and I want to say it must have been a good 2 years before I picked it back up again. And I think the only reason that I picked it up was obviously it was coming towards Village being released, and I thought I'm gonna have to go back to it and like finish the game and see what it's all about. And I think because I went into it looking at it with a fresh set of eyes, with a whole new perspective on it, I then really enjoyed it. I think it was just simply that fact of, because so much was different.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, that's needed. And the way that I see 7 now is it took the game back to its roots. Like, it made it scary again, because we all know 6, right? We've all played 6. I'd hazard a guess.
For our sins.
I'd hazard a guess if you ask 80% of Resident Evil fans what their least favourite Resident Evil is, they're probably going to go with 6. And it was all action. Like, I think that they tried to put a little bit of scary stuff in there and a little bit of horror, and I just think they failed with it. I think it was just, they were trying to do too much, they were trying to put too much into it. But then 7 really took it back to being scary again. Like, there was so many times that, you know, I got jump scared playing Resident Evil 7 when I played back through it properly.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times that what's she called, Marge, the amount of times she just jumps out at you, I was like, there must be a good 4 or 5 clips of me playing Resident Evil 7 where something just makes me jump out of my skin. Like, I got so many jump scares on that game, it was unreal.
Yeah. But no, I totally agree with all of what you just said as well, to be honest. I mean, after 6, I was like kind of losing interest in Resident Evil. I thought this is what it's going to be like. I think Revs 2, did that come out after 6? I know it's set before 6, but I think it came out after 6. And that was kind of when I started having a bit more faith in the series again, because that one, I did like Revelations 2. And I thought it was a bit more bringing it back into horror.
Yeah.
But no, I thought the same as you. I thought everything was so different. You had a whole new cast. It was first person. It wasn't really a virus. It was like a mold. I don't know. It kind of just felt so detached from Resident Evil that it kind of like, is this even Resident Evil? And Ethan, I don't know. I just didn't really get that he was. Well, one, his limbs just kept falling off and being reattached, which was kind of like, what is this? And then he didn't really seem to have that much emotion in the game. But I'm glad he seemed, when they did Resident Evil Village, he seemed completely different. He just seemed a bit more like, he was actually caring about his daughter and stuff. He did not seem to care about the fact that his wife was attacking him with a chainsaw at all, in my opinion. Just another day at the Winters household. I don't know. It was very strange.
Yeah.
But no, I got it. They did make a Village now with the Winters expansion, so you can play it on like as third person as well, to sort of bring that element back, I think. Because I think the first person, I personally didn't feel it, but I know quite a few of my friends have said when they've played it, it made them feel dizzy or a bit unwell from the way the camera moves so much as a first person experience. So
I think with Ethan in particular, completely agree with your assessment of him there in 7. I think he was in 7 a very bland, almost to the point of being boring kind of character. Like you say, you'd expect him to show a hell of a lot more emotion than what he does. But I've got to give them credit. His character development between 7 and Village, I thought was brilliant. And I mean, I feel like I can say this now because if people haven't yet played Village and don't know the story behind it, I feel like they're not going to. I think the whole plot twist at the end, where it turns out he was actually murdered by Jack Baker, hence the reason why he can reattach limbs and all that kind of stuff. I feel like that was a really big plot twist. I really didn't see it coming. But the whole ending to his story as well, I thought that was absolutely incredible. Not very often will I get emotional on a computer game, but that, I'm not going to lie, that made me start tearing up a little bit, that did.
Yeah, no, definitely. I completely agree. And I'm kind of glad they saved it until the end to tell you all of that as well and make it the plot twist, because I've got to be honest, when he lost his leg and when he lost his hand and he lost his hand again, and he just puts it back on with his little first aid liquid goo, and he's just like, what is happening?
I know. Lost your hand? Then, it's alright. Pour this magic water on it. You'll be fine.
Exactly. It's like, I can't take this seriously. It was kind of funny for the wrong reasons. But then by the end, it all made sense. You're like, oh, okay. That's why he's okay at just losing limbs every now and again.
Now, what?
But yeah, I didn't see it coming either. So it was a good twist.
Yeah, I've seen people claim that they saw it coming, and I just sit there and I think, but did you though? Did you really? Because it's easy to sit here now and say like, oh, it was obvious, it was this, it was that, but at the time, it for me, it definitely wasn't. But I'm actually really intrigued to hear where you think they go from here with the franchise now.
Oh, where I think they will go, or where I think I'd like them to go?
Both.
Okay. What I'd love for them to do is to actually, I think, finish maybe with a Revelations 3 or something. They left Alex hanging, in my opinion. And I love, as I've mentioned before, I love a good female villain. So Alex is right up there in my list of femme fatales that I would love to see return. And I think she's probably the only one that actually succeeded in what she was trying to do. And there's a big open window there for her to return and continue. But I just think I don't know if Capcom will, because every time they seem to have a character that could be returning, they never seem to bring them back. I think Steve was sort of hinted that he could return, but they never did. And obviously Rev's 1 characters all seem to have disappeared off the face of the earth. Billy's disappeared. Sheva's gone. You know, I don't know. I would love to see the Natalia villain return under Alex, and some sort of story there, but I don't know if we will. As for where they'll go, I don't honestly. They're probably. I'm not. I think they might just create a whole new cast or something like that and start Resident Evil 9 in as in like they kind of did with 7. I feel like they tried to close the Winters chapter and then they'll start a new one. Don't know. I'm gonna look forward to Death Island and see what happens there.
Well,
maybe that'll give some stuff away.
To what I believe initially, the Winters were getting a trilogy. It was going to be 7, 8, and 9. But I feel like they've sort of closed that chapter now with, like you say, the Winters expansion for Village with the Shadow of Rose DLC. I think for me, the obvious sort of plot angle now, after the ending of Village, is Chris going after the BSAA. Because you've got that whole cutscene where, you know, he's saying, oh, the BSAA, they've gone too far, etc., etc. I think what I'd love to see is, by the ending of it, all of the mainline characters all sort of intertwined somehow, sort of like what they tried doing with 6, but failed miserably at. I feel like we need to see Jill again. I feel like we need to see Leon again. We need to get Claire involved somewhere. If you can get them all together somehow and tie off the story. And this one might not be as popular of an opinion, but I feel as if we need to see one of them die. I think one of them has got to be killed off in order to completely end the story, because I feel like you can't really do it without involving one of them in some way, shape or form. Like, I know obviously 7 was all based around Ethan, but you had Chris turn up at the end. Not my Chris Redfield, by the way, because that is by far the worst version of Chris Redfield I have ever seen in my life. If anything, it's probably him that I'd pick. If they're going to kill off one of that sort of original cast, I've got a feeling it would be him that they go to. In terms of what I think that they're going to do, I honestly don't know. Like, I've given up trying to predict what they're going to do with things. I mean, I'm sure, obviously this is something that we all say. I hope a Code Veronica remake is in the future somewhere. Whether or not we'll get it remains to be seen. Like you say, Revelations 3 is a possibility. That's something that they could look at. I do think, obviously, after just releasing 4 Remake, I do think they're going to go back to the mainline story, and I think that's going to be the next title. But I mean, this is Capcom we're talking about, so who could ever actually know unless you're in the know already?
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, I'm going to assume, you know, in fact, no, I'm going to take that option away. If Code Veronica wasn't an available option, what would you go to be for their next remake? Which one would you like to see them remake, if any at all?
Ooh, probably. Yeah, I mean, 0 wasn't my favourite, but I wonder if a remake would do it justice, and actually being something that's a bit more playable. Alternatively, the remake RE1. I just don't feel, but honestly, I never even felt that 4 needed a remake. But now that they've done it, I do love it. I can't deny that. But I just didn't feel like it really needed it. I certainly don't think 5 or 6 do, even though I know that people's sort of opinions after the ending of 4 think that 5's next, and maybe it is, who knows. But I personally just don't think they need to be remade. So if it were me, I'd push more for the earlier ones, like 0, that is just awful to play, in my opinion. I mean, I don't mind the fact. I think it's quite realistic, you know, the whole inventory system that game has decided to go down. But I've got a bit of OCD, and I like to have a bit of order. And just seeing all my stuff strewn about the floor of any building with a typewriter in it is just It causes me anxiety.
No, I get that.
So
Do you know what? I would love the concept of Zero, or like you say, number one in the RE engine. Whether or not we're going to get that, I don't know. I am inclined to agree with what you just said there. I think that 5's the next one that they're going to go to. I feel like they've really left the door open for it. Like you say, whether I agree that it needs it or not, I don't necessarily think that it does. But I thought the same thing about 4. And I remember 4 being announced, really wasn't interested. I was that disappointed that Code Veronica wasn't next. That initially I had no intentions of getting 4 remake. Really wasn't interested in it. I thought this is just it's just about money, which I get. Obviously that's the whole point of any business, is to make money. And then I saw the trailer, and I was like, okay, all right, yeah, fair enough. I kind of like the look of this now. I think what Nick's done with the Leon character has been brilliant.
yeah.
I mean, I really enjoy Nick anyway. I've seen him on stream a couple of times. He's popped into a few people that I've watched. I think he's such a funny guy. Really like the bloke. I remember him joining Matt RPD on one of his streams, and he just basically spent the entirety of it just taking the piss out of him. And I thought, oh, okay, all right, I like this guy. But that being said, I had the same thing with Joe White. So Joe White is the voice actor for Chris in Resident Evil Remaster. And I got him on my stream one time, and he just basically did the same thing. He spent the entire time just taking the piss out of me, and I thought, yeah, I like this. I mean, bearing in mind, Joe's a lot older than Nick. I'm sure Joe's in... I don't want to try and predict his age and get it wrong and end up being offensive. But I'm sure he's like late 40s or something like that. But his sense of humour was just incredible. Really had me laughing while he's... what was I playing? I think I was doing knife only on Resident Evil 1, actually. Obviously as Chris, because it was Joe White.
Yeah.
But yeah, that he really made me laugh with that. I don't know.
That's amazing.
What they're going to go to next, I really don't know.
I do feel what you mean with the change of Leon. It definitely made it more serious, and I think that really kind of helped the story. I think some of the cutscenes as well, the ones they modified, were all good choices. But the character that did it for me was Ashley, to be honest. I really, really did not like Ashley in the original Resident Evil 4. I just found her annoying all the time. But actually, I really, really enjoyed her, and I think that was hats off to the voice actress for Ashley, and actually making sort of the emotion feel a bit real. I think she could have been a little bit more intuitive in some of the, I mean, at one point, I think in the water room, and if the enemies surround her, she just sits down on the floor.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure you can do something more than that, seriously. But otherwise, no, I thought her sort of development was a lot better. And yeah, I actually really, really enjoyed that character, which was a massive shift from the original.
Well, do you know what? I think if you're going to talk character development between original and remake, the one that did it for me the most was Nikolai in Resident Evil 3. Because,
oh yeah,
I mean, obviously the original one is one that I play quite a lot anyway. I feel like in the original, it was more an annoyance than anything. Like, it was more just a pain in the backside. But I think what they did with him in the remake is they did make him into this truly evil character who, all he cares about is money. He just wants to make money, and he's not bothered whose toes he steps on in order to get there. He's not bothered who ends up dying in order for him to get there. I think what they did with him in the remake was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, he was so good, and I didn't even, unless you told me who he was, I wouldn't have even been able to tell you he was Neil Newborn. He was just, his voice was just incredible. Because he's the same one that plays Heisenberg, isn't he? And he's in something else. I'm sure he's in another game of Detroit Beyond Human. He was in as well.
Oh,
but he's so good.
I never knew he was in that.
Yeah, he plays the one who makes them, I think.
Oh.
makes the Chloes, I think, and you have to decide whether you let him live or not.
No, I might have to. I mean, I've seen bits of Detroit Become Human. It's not one that I've played myself. There was a game recently. Well, I say recently. There was a game a while back that I sort of went to, really enjoyed, and then like I did with 7 Remake, I put it down and never went back to it. I think it was Control, actually. I think I've been able to get a copy for free, and I can't remember why. I don't know, maybe it was on Game Pass or something like that. And I remember trying it out and really enjoying it, and then for some reason just never went back to it. God knows where that just came from, by the way. That's a proper curveball there. But no, Detroit Become Human, yeah, if Neil's in it, I'm going to have to check that out, because, you know, I really enjoy Neil. I thought the characters that he's played have been really good. Like I say, you know, I make no surprise at the fact that Nikolai in 3 Remake, I'd have to put him in my top 3 Resident Evil villains. Although it was quite funny, because I remember seeing something on social media one time, and somebody claimed that he was like the main overall baddie in the series, and I'm like, dude, have you never even heard of Albert Wesker? I was like, yeah, he's good, nice, but you know, he's no Wesker. That being a point, do you think we'll ever see Wesker again?
Oh gosh, I kind of hope not. I know. There's a lot of love for Wesker, but he has been in 3 games as a recurring villain, and there are plenty of others there that need to have the light shone. I say Alex, I think, is another Wesker, but I think Alex is probably the next one that should have more limelight. I do think Capcom probably need to think about it a bit more instead of killing off their villains so quickly.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, they build up such a good story arc for them, and then they're just gone in a game, and kind of like, really? So I kind of did like the whole Wesker thing returning, and then it sort of building up to 5 and being that big battle, but it kind of feels a bit anticlimactic if he's going to just turn up again randomly, surviving the volcano, and I think now end Wesker, and if you want to go down that route again, you've got Alex. Start it there. That would be my preference.
And I do feel like that's sort of a big missed opportunity that they've had. Is they've just not recreated that rivalry that they had between Chris and Wesker. And there was plenty of opportunities to do it. I mean, they didn't have to kill off Alexia so quickly. I feel like that's a missed opportunity. I feel like there was an awful lot that they could have potentially done with her going forward.
And honestly, when they announced Revelations 2 and they said that the villain was a returning villain, and they kept her so hidden and all this, I did honestly think at one point, is that Alexia? Is this going to be like a rivalry between Alexia and Claire or something? And I've got to be honest, Revs 2 just always gave me such Code Veronica vibes anyway. You know, Claire being captured, taken to a jail on an island with the blonde female antagonist. Just Code Veronica! But alas, it was not meant to be. But I didn't understand why. I mean, the only reason I can think, because the downfall, I think, with Alex a bit is she's so hidden throughout the game. She pretty much has like one cutscene right at the end, where otherwise you don't really see her. They keep her hidden. And I always wondered why, and I think it's probably because if they revealed her, everyone would be like, who? But you know, yeah. So I thought that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. I would have liked to have seen some kind of rivalry that could have, if you like, rivaled Chris and Wesker. I mean, you could even say Jack with Ethan. I think they could have done more there with the Baker family. I get why they didn't, and I think they sort of tried to do something similar with the whole appearance of Evelyn at the end of Village. It was just, it wasn't the same, but it also sort of begs the question, like, would that be the go-to? Like, if you tried creating a main character versus evil villain rivalry in Resident Evil, is that what people are going to do? Are they just going to say, yeah, it's good, it's not Chris and Wesker though?
Yeah, that is the thing. You've got something to compare to, and I think you're probably right. I mean, is something going to top that? Probably not.
Yeah, it'd be a difficult one to do. Like, what about the films? What are your take on the films? Because I know there's been a lot of opinions about the Resident Evil films go out. Some very colourful. What do you think about them?
I'm assuming you mean the Paul Anderson ones.
Yeah.
So I actually really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was such a good take. You know, it was unique. It was kind of on its own. Obviously, had the Umbrella Corporation, but the characters were different. The story was completely unique, and they just basically took the concept of Resident Evil and made it its own. And I actually really loved it. Then I watched Apocalypse, and it kind of went downhill from there for me, to be honest. Because the characters started popping up. They weren't what I was expecting them to be. The whole LadyAshford storyline just made me cringe. I can't be honest. I lost it from there. And I honestly, there were so many of them. I can't even remember what even happens in them. But no, I wasn't the biggest fan. I haven't seen the Welcome to Raccoon City yet, though. I do still need to watch that.
You see, with
and I saw.
Go on.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on. By the way.
I was just going to say, I saw there was a clip in there as well of the Ashford twins with Birkin stood behind them. So I was like, oh, I'm already not liking this. Why is Birkin there? So it kind of put me off a bit. But I will watch that at some point.
See, the thing, in fact, I'll have to get back to you on this, but I might be able to send you a copy because I'm sure I've got a copy on my PC, and it's actually really good quality as well. The Paul Anderson films, like you say, the first one I thought was really good. This green screen. Sorry. Anywho, yeah, the very first one, I was really impressed with it. I thought it was about as good as what they could have come up with at the time. Apocalypse, I didn't mind too much. Am I right in saying Apocalypse was the one with Nemesis?
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed it. I liked the inclusion of Nemesis. What I actually really liked was the part towards the end where he's told to bloody hell, what's the woman's character called? How am I forgetting this now? Alice, that's it. He's told to fight Alice, and he refuses to, and he ends up being a good guy, if you will.
It reminds me of Steve. You know, the whole Steve arc.
Yeah.
He's like, there! With a rocket launcher. I've
never made that comparison before.
Yeah.
Like, you've just said that, and it's glaringly obvious, but I've never thought of that before. Wow! I just think
You're welcome.
The problem that they had after Apocalypse, I just feel like it got a little bit too out of hand. There was a lot that they did that I really didn't enjoy. One of the things that I really felt like they really didn't pull off was Chris Redfield. Now, I like Wentworth Miller. I really like him as an actor. I thought he was phenomenal in Prison Break, but he's not Chris Redfield. And I feel that the casting choice there was really, really poor. I would never have gone in that direction. Without giving too much away, Welcome to Raccoon City. I mean, I've only watched it the once, so I don't feel like I've given it very much opportunity. There's quite a lot in there that I felt was really good. I certainly don't feel it deserves the hate that it got anyway. Because I'm sure, obviously, I know you've not seen it yourself, but unless you lived under a rock, you must have seen people talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
I just feel that... I feel it's something that they just need to stop doing now. Because I can't remember who I was speaking to, but I was having the same conversation with somebody quite recently, and I just feel that anything that they do with a Resident Evil film, people are going to pick holes in it. You know, there's going to be something that they're unhappy with, there's going to be something that they don't like. I think it's just one of those that nothing is going to be enough. So, you know, just take the loss, take the hit. You're not going to do it. I certainly don't feel that we're ever going to see, especially a live action one anyway. I mean, the animated films, I thought they were brilliant. Well, that's it. I've not watched. What was the third one called?
Vendetta. Yeah, I haven't seen that one either.
I've seen like the opening 15 minutes or so of it, but I've not watched it all. But I thought Degeneration and Damnation, although it felt as if it was just an epically long cutscene out of a game, I really enjoyed them. I thought they were really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just something that they need to stop trying now. They're not going to get it right. Or we were having... it was Amber I was having the conversation with. But I just feel it's one of those, like I say, it doesn't matter what they do. I feel like they could even go as far as to do a live action version that is every single... It's the games. Like 100% it's the games. And people are still going to find a reason to dislike it.
Yeah, of course. Did you watch the Netflix series that they did?
I watched the 4-part one, the animated one. What was that one called? You know, with Leon and Claire.
Oh, Infinite Darkness.
That's the one. Yeah. I watched Infinite Darkness. Thought it was a bit meh. Like I didn't hate it, but I didn't particularly love it either. It was just, it was all right. You know, wouldn't say anything more than all right. The one after it, I never actually got around to watching because I didn't get the opportunity to watch it when it was first released, like what the vast majority of people did. So what I believe, it started off really well and then just went south really quick. And I just think I've heard too many poor opinions of it now. I probably will give it an opportunity myself and see what I think about it, but certainly not in a rush to.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably say the same. It's all right. You just got to take it as it is, I guess. It's just different, very different, and because they try and connect it back to the main story a bit, it doesn't quite connect well for me. I think they've got is it Evelyn Marcus is in there, so again, like trying to connect it a little bit back to the original story, but it doesn't quite work. And Wesker's interesting, but yeah, you need to watch it and obviously have your own view of it. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but I'd probably say the same. It started out quite good and then slowly gets worse.
I feel like I need to watch it now just so that I can debate it with you. Like, I need to know what I'm talking about.
I'm up for that anytime.
Right. I am going to start to wrap things up, just purely because I've just seen the time.
Yeah.
And I've got plenty that I need to do because, you know, we don't all get bank holidays off work. Although I'll give you've not rubbed this one in.
I've kept it quiet this time.
But yeah, guys, if you don't already follow Lady Ashford, please do so. I've just thrown the links to her Twitter and her Twitch in there. And I'm getting called a loser in chat, brilliant. But yeah, if you don't already, please do go and drop her a follow. Really looking forward to you seeing you play these Dark Souls games. Mainly because I don't think you're going to react the same sort of way that I would. Like, I know that there'd be a hell of a lot of colourful language if I was to play those games. I think that's one of the things that I enjoy watching the most about you, though, is the fact that you just always seem to keep you cool. Like, the game could be absolutely murdering you, and you're just like, oh, well done, game, you got me there, but I'll get you next time. And then you get me that's like, yeah, fucking asshole, I'm fucking sick of this game, it's shit. But no, I just again want to say a really big thank you for agreeing to come on and come and chat away with me about Twitch and games and whatnot. Really quickly before we do sign off, have you got anything coming up that you want to give a shout out to, or anybody, any streamer or anything like that you want to give a shout out to?
Oh my gosh, too many. I mean, I'd obviously shout you out, but kind of pointless. Oh my gosh, no, I think I'm just looking forward to my birthday stream. I still need to figure out what I'm doing for that. But I'm hoping that'll be really good. Otherwise, yeah, I'm going to be focusing on the Dark Souls series, then Bloodborne, then Elden Ring. I think my sister's just bought me Demon Souls as well, so that's just going to be fun getting brutalized on there. Otherwise, gosh, no. I mean, I've got my suggested streamers in my channel. If you want to check those out, they're really great. I'd obviously recommend who I mentioned earlier, Root Brews. She's fab, very similar vibes to mine as well, and she's just lovely. Gosh, it's too many, Liam.
See, do you know what? I always I ask that to people when they come on the podcast, but I hate getting asked it myself. It's happened to me a couple of times. I think there was one time. I was actually on a marathon, and at the end of it, they were like, "Right, is there anyone that you want to shout out or anything like that?" And I froze. Like, I didn't know what to say. I'm sitting there, didn't know who to shout out, didn't know who to suggest. I'm like, no. But no, like I said, thank you very much for agreeing to come on, guys. Go and drop her a follow. If I don't see everybody that's in the chat right now in Lady Ashford next stream, then I swear to God, you're going to feel the brunt end of my wrath. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine. Take care.
All right, you take care too. Bye.
Well, guys, that was the FTG podcast episode 14. Like I said, please do go and drop Lady Ash a follow. Not known her all that long. I want to say a couple of months, but rapidly becoming one of my favourite people on the platform. So definitely go and check her out. Now, I was intending on playing a game for a bit, but like I say, I've just recognised the time, and I don't actually think I've got time to do so. But please don't go anywhere. We are going to raid out. We're going to find somebody to raid. Excuse me. So if y'all can bear with me for a hot minute. In fact, if you're still here in the chat, Lady Ashford, have you got somebody that you would recommend for us to raid? And what I'm going to do, guys, is when I jump on, I'm going to be highlighting this and getting it ready to upload onto the Tube of You. That should go live next Sunday. So keep your eye out for that.